I never thought I'd be the kind of person who fell in love with their coach. That sounds like the setup to some forbidden romance novel, doesn't it? But life has this way of surprising you when you least expect it, of taking everything you thought you knew about yourself and turning it completely upside down. I'm 23 now, and I can look back at that summer with clear eyes. But when I was 21 and just starting my senior year of college, I had no idea what was coming. His name was Thane. Coach Thane Morrison, technically, but most of us just called him Coach or Morrison. He was 29, which felt both impossibly mature and somehow still young enough to be approachable. He'd taken over as assistant coach for our university's swim team that fall, and from the first day he walked onto the pool deck, something shifted in the air. Or maybe it was just me. Maybe I was the only one who felt it. I'm Lucas, by the way. Lucas Chen. I'd been swimming competitively since I was 8 years old, and by the time I got to college, it was as natural to me as breathing. The water was where I felt most like myself, where everything else fell away, and it was just me and the rhythm of my strokes and the burn in my muscles. I was good too, not Olympic-level good, but solid enough to earn a partial scholarship and a spot on the varsity team. That first practice with Coach Morrison, I remember pulling myself out of the pool after a brutal set of 200-meter intervals, and he was standing there with his arms crossed, watching me. Really watching me. Not the way coaches usually do, analyzing form and technique, but something else. Something that made my skin prickle with awareness. "Lucas Chen," he said, reading from his clipboard. "Freestyle and butterfly?" "That's me," I said, trying to catch my breath. "Your flip turns need work," he said. "You're losing at least half a second on each one." I nodded, wiping water from my face. "Yeah, I know. I've been trying to fix that." "Stay after practice today," he said. "We'll work on it." It was a completely normal interaction. Coaches kept swimmers after practice all the time. But something about the way he looked at me when he said it made my heart do this weird flutter thing that I immediately tried to ignore. I was probably just tired, or dehydrated, or something. Practice ended at 6, and most of the team cleared out pretty quickly. We had an early session the next morning, and everyone was exhausted. I waited by the pool while Coach Morrison finished talking to the head coach, and then it was just the two of us in the natatorium. The space felt different when it was empty, our voices echoing off the high ceiling, the water still and glassy. "All right," he said, walking over to me. "Show me your approach to the wall." I dove in and swam a lap, focusing on my turn. When I surfaced, he was crouched at the edge of the pool, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "You're not tucking tight enough," he said, "and you're hesitating for just a fraction of a second before you push off. It's mental, not physical." "How do you fix a mental block?" I asked. "Repetition," he said. "And trust. You have to trust your body to know what to do." We worked on turns for 45 minutes. He was patient but demanding, making me do it over and over until my legs were shaking and I could barely pull myself out of the pool. But he was right. By the end, I could feel the difference. I was faster, smoother, more confident. "Better," he said, offering me his hand to help me out of the water. His grip was strong and warm, and he held on for just a second longer than necessary. "Same time tomorrow?" "Sure," I said, and that's how it started. For the next 3 weeks, I stayed after practice almost every day. Sometimes we worked on turns. Sometimes it was my butterfly stroke, which had gotten sloppy over the summer. Sometimes we just talked while I cooled down, sitting on the edge of the pool with our feet in the water. He told me about swimming in college, about the injury that ended his competitive career, about how coaching felt like a second chance. I told him about my family, about the pressure I felt to be perfect, about how sometimes the water was the only place I felt free. I started looking forward to those sessions more than anything else in my day. I'd catch myself watching the clock during afternoon classes, counting down the hours until practice. I told myself it was because I was improving, because Coach Morrison was helping me become a better swimmer. And that was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was that I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he smiled when I nailed a difficult set. The way his voice sounded when he called my name across the pool. The way he looked in his team polo and shorts, the muscles in his arms flexing when he demonstrated a stroke technique. I'd catch myself staring and have to force my eyes away, my face burning with embarrassment. I dated a few girls in high school and my first couple years of college. Nothing serious, nothing that lasted more than a few months. I'd always assumed I just hadn't met the right person yet. It never occurred to me that maybe I'd been looking in the wrong direction entirely. One evening, after a particularly grueling practice, I was sitting on the bench in the locker room, too tired to even think about showering. Coach Morrison came in to grab something from his office, and he stopped when he saw me. "You okay?" he asked. "Just dead," I said. "In a good way." He sat down next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. "You pushed yourself hard today. I'm proud of you." Something about those words, or maybe the way he said them, made my throat tight. "Thanks, Coach." "You can call me Thane," he said. "When it's just us, I mean." Coach feels so formal. "Thane," I repeated, testing the name on my tongue. It felt intimate somehow, like a secret between us. We sat there in comfortable silence for a moment. And then he said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why do you swim?" I thought about it. "I don't know. I've been doing it for so long, it's just part of who I am." "Why do you ask?" "Because I watch you in the water," he said. "And it's like you're searching for something, like you're trying to swim away from something or toward something, but you're not quite sure which." The observation was so accurate, it made my chest ache. "Maybe both," I said quietly. He nodded like he understood exactly what I meant. "Yeah," he said. "Me too." That night, lying in my dorm room bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, the weight of his words, the way it felt to sit next to him. My roommate was snoring in the bed across from me, and I stared at the ceiling, feeling something shift inside me. A recognition, an acknowledgement of something I'd been pushing down for weeks. I was attracted to him, to Thane, to my coach, to a man. The realization didn't come with panic or denial. It came with this strange sense of clarity, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. All those relationships with girls that never quite worked. All those times I'd felt like I was performing a role rather than being myself. It suddenly made sense. But knowing it and doing something about it were two entirely different things. He was my coach. He was 8 years older than me. He could lose his job if anything happened between us. And I had no idea if he felt the same way, or if I was just projecting my own confused feelings onto every interaction we had. I decided to do nothing. To just keep showing up to practice, keep improving, keep those after-hours sessions as professional as possible. It was the smart thing to do, the safe thing. That lasted exactly 4 more days. We were working on starts that Thursday, and I kept false starting, throwing off my timing. I was frustrated with myself, which made me sloppy, which made me more frustrated. It was a vicious cycle. "Take a break," Thane said. "You're in your head too much." I climbed out of the pool and sat on the edge, breathing hard. He sat down next to me, our legs dangling in the water. "What's going on with you?" he asked. "You've been off all week." "Nothing," I said. "Just tired." "Lucas." The way he said my name made me look at him. "Talk to me." And maybe it was the gentleness in his voice, or the way the late afternoon light was slanting through the windows, or the fact that I was exhausted from carrying this secret around, but I said, "Can I ask you something? And can you promise to be honest?" "Of course." "Why do you keep me after practice so much?" The question came out more vulnerable than I intended. "Is it really just about my form?" He was quiet for a long moment, and I watched his reflection ripple in the water. "No," he finally said. "It's not just about your form." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Then why?" He turned to look at me, and there was something raw in his expression, something unguarded. "Because I like spending time with you, because you're talented and dedicated, and you actually listen when I'm trying to teach you something. Because—" He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. "Because I look forward to these sessions more than I should." "What does that mean?" I whispered. "It means I need to be careful," he said. "It means I'm your coach and you're my athlete, and there are boundaries I can't cross, no matter how much I might want to." The admission hung between us, electric and terrifying. "And if I weren't your athlete?" I asked. "But you are." "The season ends in 4 months." "Lucas." He said my name like a warning and a plea at the same time. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't acknowledge that there's something here. Don't admit that I think about you constantly. Don't—" "You're 21, he interrupted. "You're figuring yourself out. I can't be the person you experiment with." "This isn't experimenting," I said, surprised by the certainty in my own voice. "I've been with girls before. I've kissed people and dated people and felt nothing like what I feel when I'm around you. This isn't me being confused. This is me finally understanding something about myself." He closed his eyes. "This could ruin my career." "I know. You could decide tomorrow that this was a mistake, that you're not actually interested in men, and I'd be the one left dealing with the consequences." "I won't. You can't promise that." "Yes, I can." I turned to face him fully. "Thane, look at me." He did, and I saw the conflict in his eyes, the want warring with the responsibility. "I'm not asking you to risk everything right now," I said. "I'm just asking you to be honest with me. Do you feel this too?" For a moment, I thought he was going to shut down, to retreat behind his professional boundaries. But then he nodded, just once, barely perceptible. "Yes," he said quietly. "I feel it too." The confession should have made me happy, but instead I felt the weight of all the obstacles between us. "So what do we do?" "Nothing," he said. "We do nothing. We finish out the season. You graduate, and then, if you still feel the same way, if this is still something you want, we can revisit this conversation." "That's 4 months away." "I know. I'll still feel the same way in 4 months." "Then waiting won't matter," he said, but I could hear the doubt in his voice, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. We sat there as the light faded outside the windows, neither of us moving. Finally, he stood up. "I should go. And Lucas, maybe it's better if we don't do these after-practice sessions anymore." The words felt like a punch to the gut. "You're serious?" "I have to be." He grabbed his bag from the bench. "I'll see you at regular practice tomorrow." He left, and I sat there alone in the empty natatorium, feeling like something precious had just slipped through my fingers. The next 2 weeks were torture. He was professional and distant during team practices, treating me exactly the same as every other swimmer. No more private sessions, no more sitting by the pool talking. I told myself it was for the best, that he was protecting both of us, but it hurt in a way I hadn't expected. I threw myself into training, pushing harder than ever. If I couldn't have those quiet moments with him, at least I could prove that his coaching had made me better. My times improved. My technique tightened. The head coach noticed and started talking about championship meets, about how I might actually place if I kept improving. But at night, I'd lie awake and replay that conversation by the pool. The way he'd admitted he felt it too. The way he'd looked at me like he wanted to say more, but couldn't. I counted down the days until the end of the season like a prisoner marking time. Then, 3 weeks before championships, everything changed. I was leaving the library late one Tuesday night when I ran into him in the parking lot. He was getting into his car, and we both froze when we saw each other. "Hey," I said. Hey. He looked tired, older somehow than he had a few weeks ago. How are you? Fine. You? Fine. We stood there awkwardly, all the things we weren't saying filling the space between us. Finally, I said, I miss talking to you. His expression softened. I miss it too. Can we grab coffee or something? As friends. Just to talk. He hesitated, and I could see him weighing the risks. There's a place off campus, he finally said. About 20 minutes from here. Nobody from the university goes there. We took separate cars and met at a small diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1970s. We slid into a corner booth, and a tired-looking waitress brought us a coffee without asking. So, he said. So, I echoed. And then we both started laughing, the tension breaking. We talked for 2 hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Oregon, about his family, about the boyfriend he'd had in college who'd broken his heart. I told him about coming out to myself, about how scary and exhilarating it was to finally understand this part of myself. I haven't told anyone yet, I admitted. You're the first person I've really talked to about this. That's a big deal, he said. I'm honored you trust me with it. Of course I trust you. He reached across the table and took my hand, just for a moment, his thumb brushing across my knuckles. It was the first time we'd touched since that day by the pool, and it sent electricity through my entire body. 11 weeks, he said quietly. That's all that's left of the season. I'm counting. Me too. We started meeting at that diner once a week. It became our thing, our secret space where we could just be Lucas and Thane instead of athlete and coach. We never did anything more than talk, never crossed any physical lines. But those conversations sustained me. They were what I thought about during practice, during classes, during the endless hours of training. The championship meet arrived in early March. I swam the best races of my life, fueled by months of hard work and the knowledge that Thane was watching from the deck. I placed third in the 200-meter freestyle and second in the 100-meter butterfly. When I climbed out of the pool after that final race, he was there, and the pride in his eyes was worth more than any medal. You did it, he said. We did it, I corrected. The season ended with a team banquet where they handed out awards and gave speeches. I sat with my teammates, but my eyes kept drifting to where Thane stood with the other coaches. Soon, I kept thinking. Soon. The next week, I went to his office during his posted hours. The door was open, and he looked up when I knocked. Lucas, come in. I closed the door behind me. The season's over. I know. I still feel the same way I did 4 months ago. Actually, I feel more sure now than I did then. He stood up from his desk. I got a job offer. Head coach position at a college in California. I'd be leaving at the end of the semester. My heart sank. Oh. I turned it down. What? Why? He came around the desk, standing close enough that I could see the nervous energy in his eyes. Because I realized something these past few months. I realized that I could walk away and play it safe and always wonder what might have been. Or I could take a chance on something real. Thane. I'm resigning as assistant coach, he said. I already talked to the head coach this morning. I'll finish out the semester, but after that, I'm done. I'll find something else, another team, another school, but I won't be your coach anymore. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do, because I can't keep pretending I don't want this. I can't keep pretending I don't want you. He kissed me then, soft and tentative and perfect. It was my first kiss with a man, and it felt like coming home, like everything I'd been searching for in the water, in my life, in myself, was right here in this moment. When we pulled apart, I was smiling so hard my face hurt. So what now? Now we take it slow, he said. We figure this out together. No pressure, no expectations. Just us. Just us, I agreed. That was 2 years ago. Thane found a coaching position at a club team across town, and I graduated and got a job at a tech company downtown. We got an apartment together last month, a small one-bedroom with terrible water pressure, but big windows that let in the morning light. I still swim early mornings at the community pool. Sometimes Thane comes with me and watches from the deck, and I'll catch him smiling the way he used to during those after-practice sessions. The way that made me realize I was falling in love with him long before I had the courage to admit it. People ask us sometimes how we met, and we tell them the truth. He was my coach. He kept me after practice. It was never really about my form. It was about two people finding each other in the most unexpected way, about having the courage to acknowledge something real even when it was complicated and scary and went against every rule. Last week, I was getting ready for bed, and Thane was already under the covers, reading. I paused in the doorway, just watching him, and he looked up. "What?" he asked, smiling. "Just thinking about how lucky I am," I said. "Come here," he said, setting down his book. I climbed into bed next to him and he pulled me close. His heartbeat was steady under my ear, and I felt that same sense of peace I used to feel in the water. That sense of being exactly where I was supposed to be. "I love you," I said. "I love you too," he said, kissing the top of my head. Sometimes the person you're meant to find is standing right in front of you, waiting for you to be brave enough to see them. Sometimes falling in love means taking a risk, breaking the rules, trusting that what you feel is worth fighting for. And sometimes the coach keeps you after practice because he sees something in you that you're just beginning to see in yourself. Sometimes it was never about your form at all. Sometimes it was always about finding your way home.